Hello and welcome back to Chris's Retro Corner. In a previous video, and I'll link it up here, we had a quick look at my Atari ST and prepared it for retrobrighting. Here in part 2, we'll have a quick look at the results. So without further ado, here is the case. So let's have a little closer look at how things came out. As you can see, it got quite light. Not quite sure how this is coming out on camera. If I go here, maybe you might see, unfortunately there's a little bit of sort of sunbursting here. Okay, so let me explain what happened. So put the cream on, wrapped it over, took it out in the sun. Had a very successful day, or so I thought, but the case really hadn't brightened up as much as I thought it was going to. So I got a little greedy and I opted to go for a second day. The 2 days were particularly sunny back to back, very hot in fact. And yeah, day 2, I think I've overdone it. If we have another look over here, you'll see that it's a little white here as well. The underside, pretty much exactly the same story. In fact, possibly even just a little worse. There's some marks there. So I think what has happened is that it's been a little too hot, a little too bright. And like I say, I got a little greedy. I was really hoping to get this as light as I could do, really in one go, using a method that I've used before. So I've retrobrighted my Commodore 64 in exactly the same fashion, had very good results, was quite happy. So I thought I'd apply it to this. What I should have done perhaps was done my homework. It seems, and I had a few comments from people sort of within the Atari Facebook forums, they were like, dude, you know, maybe the cream isn't such a good idea, you get a lot of this colour burst. And they were quite right, and I should have done my research first perhaps. So we'll come back to that in just a minute or two. But in all honesty, it didn't seem to be too bad. I experienced a little bit of fun with what I think was case warping as well. It was that hot. If you can see here, right there, you can see I think I've got a little bit of warp, which is not too bad because there's a screw hole just there, and again just over here as well. I think when I sit the case correctly, again I think it's warped just a little bit. It will sit flush when the screws are in the case, but yeah, perhaps I was a little too keen. So lessons learnt. Well, lessons learnt. Remove the badge. I've lost the word Atari here, as well as, because it was a painted badge. It was a grey painted badge. If you remember, I held the mouse against this and said, "Oh, this is a colour match for the original case." But yeah, I've lost the paint and the word Atari off there. However, if you can see that in the light, you've still got the Atari logo. You can still see what model it is, and do you know what? I actually quite like that. That's kind of subtle. I actually like that. So I don't feel too bad. I know you can get replacement badges. I'm not going to bother. Like I say, I think that's okay. So yeah, that's one lesson. 2, use the gloves. So yeah, I said I was going to use gloves. I didn't use gloves. I should have used gloves because I ended up getting little white marks all over my hands, not only when I was doing this, but also when I uncovered them. I moved the cream around because it did happen. Still forgot to use the gloves. Ended up with quite large white patches, especially on my thumbs. Even though I was trying to be careful, I don't recall touching anything. Obviously I have. So yeah, 2, use gloves. Like I say, I think it was probably too hot. A bright, sunshiny day, yes. One of the hottest days of the year, probably not. And another one is several people suggested maybe using cream, but brushing it around a little bit more frequently. Of course, if it wasn't covered over, And this is the thing, if it were covered over, you've got that sort of greenhouse effect. It didn't seem to get very hot to the touch, actually, when I went out to brush it off. What I was trying to stop occur was the cream drying out and thickening up, making it hard to move around. I was reapplying, but yeah. So people have suggested using cream without the cling film, and they said they've had some very good effects, but of course you do need to go and move it around quite a lot. So let's have another look at this case and bring in the mouse just for reference, okay? Because I think what I was saying originally was let's have a look at the let's see if we can zoom in just a little bit here. There we go. So I was saying, oh, check out the mouse against the grey there. This looked grey to my eye. So this was my benchmark. This is my colour control, as it were. We'd held it sort of down here. Let's get an end shot. Held it down here, popped it up here as well. And but now, as you can, I think as you can probably see quite easily, it now looks like the mouse is the odd one out. On camera, this looks very nice. Possibly too light, but everybody that I've seen says it will get darker. So at some point it will return, I'm guessing, to what I'm hoping to be the original colour for this. So yeah, now the mouse looks a little bit different. So let's have a quick look. Let's put this on each edge. You can see what I mean about that slight bend there. So that's an interesting one. Not too worried. It'll screw down. It'll be fine. But yeah, lessons for you guys to learn maybe. But yeah, that's what it looked. This is kind of what it was. The top of the case, which you can see, like I said, I've probably been greedy. I've gone to town on this. It has come up a lot lighter than the bottom. But then again, it was a lot darker than the mouse. So yeah, on the whole, all things borne in mind, I don't think this is too bad at all. And I'll show you something. You might have spotted it already. You might have wondered what that was, but I'll show you. There's a little patch here that looks kind of just fine, really, next to this. Let's get a little bit closer, and I can show you this. So you can really see that the bleach in the Be Blonde cream really has gone to town on this. This was an area perhaps that I wasn't quite as vigilant on the second day when I was brightening in the sunshine, and as a consequence, yeah, it's sort of torched it. It is under the machine. I still know it's there. It's a bit annoying, but yeah, this bit here, as you can see, that's not too bad. A bit of something on there, but yeah. Now what that is, I had an idea. A car detailing product professed to condition plastics. So I thought I'd try a little bit of it underneath the case, and that's what I've done. So I'll be quite honest with you guys. I've been holding off doing this video for a while because I was a little disheartened, like I say, because of these bits here, that bit there, maybe there's some colour flash. Again, I've told myself I don't think it's too bad. Hopefully the product I'm going to show you in just a second might help alleviate those effects. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a bit of this. Now I've had this far longer than I care to remember. It's been sat in a box somewhere and completely forgotten about. So I'm assuming that Simon Eyes is still a brand, still being sold. Whether it's still called Cockpit Shine, I don't know. But that is exactly what I've used under the case, just there. And this was now a good sort of 2-3 weeks ago that we retrobrighted the case. So I think that's going to be worth giving this a go over, and seeing how it comes out. I'm pretty happy. Like I say, the bit underneath looks okay. It's been like that for quite a while now. I'm pretty confident that we're going to get this back. Not quite to showroom condition perhaps, but looking an awful lot better than it did. So without further ado, let's apply this to this. That's the bottom done. I forgot to mention, the difference between what was completely covered and therefore pretty much wasn't discoloured to the side there. You'll note now that's pretty uniform. So that's nice. Onto the top bit. And there we go. That's the top of the case as well. So have a quick look round. Don't know if the lighting in the retro corner can pick this up well or not. But yeah, I think that's come up a fair bit better. So if we do a sort of a top to bottom test again, so we start off on one side and flick it over to the other, I think you'll agree that's a lot harder to see the difference that side to that side now. And what this has done as well, like I say, it says it conditions the plastic. I'm not quite sure, but if we zoom right in here, you'll see that at least it has a diminishing effect on the sunburst. So I'll pan across the top here as well. Down here you can see it's still a little bit light, just sort of there. If I can get the camera to focus properly, just there you can see a little bit. But what I'll do, I'll pop a little bit more of that back on at some point and let it just sort of soak into the plastic a little bit. But to my eye, that does look a lot better. Bring in our control again, and a little bit yellow. Maybe I should Retrobright the mouse as well now. But yeah. So one thing remains, and that's for me to put everything back together again. There we go, our keyboard from the keyboard cleanup video. I'll pop a link up here again, why not, and pop that in. Okay, and there we are, we're done. Just kind of make the keyboard look a little yellow now in comparison. Maybe I'll revisit that in the future. But yeah, that's our ST back in its shell. Like I say, I haven't screwed it together because there's still a couple of things I'd like to do to this. So keep tuned, and you'll see a couple of more tinkerings coming up in the very near future. So to wrap up, I think it's turned out okay. I'm pretty happy with the colour. I'll be honest, I was a little disappointed at first with the badge, but like I say, that actually doesn't look half bad in my opinion now. I might change it back at some point in the future, but actually quite like that. It's become unique. So yeah, in conclusion, I'm pretty happy with that. There are other options, of course, like I mentioned earlier, not using the cling film and just dabbing it with the brush, moving the cream around in the sunshine. One method I am thinking about doing in the future is the full submersion method. So that's taking a tank or container, filling it with peroxide liquid, and then using infrared LEDs perhaps, or another infrared light source to activate the retrowriting process. It's a lot more uniform. The results I've seen are a lot more uniform. Check out the 8-bit guy here on YouTube if you're interested in perhaps the submersion method of retrobrighting. But for now, thank you for joining me, and I do look forward to seeing you again in another video soon.